Hey folks, BlackCross here with another video game review, and today's review I want to finally talk about Tunic. And it's funny how it all kind of evolutionized from whenever it was first revealed. It was first revealed as a Xbox exclusive at the time, or at least I thought it was exclusive at the time. Apparently, it slowly started to be released on other platforms, such as Nintendo Switch, as well as PlayStation 4. So, I was like, oh, cool, I get to play Tunic. But at the same time, I was a little bit concerned of how, does Microsoft have any exclusives going on right now? So far it's it was Cuphead. Then it moved on to other platforms, and now we have Tunic. Does Microsoft have any exclusive titles? Any strict exclusives? Or is it just mostly dedicated towards the console? Either way, I was just kind of shocked and surprised. But at any rate, though, we're going to be talking about Tunic. And I have to be honest about something. This is the one game where I can actually actively say that this is the one game that I actually have a love-hate relationship. And that is odd. Normally, I'm pretty one-track with something, where it's I usually hate something or I usually like something. Maybe it's a little bit down towards the middle and stuff like that. But my gosh, you talk about one of the most unusual games to play. It starts off relatively cutesy, the way it's graphically designed and looks and stuff like that. And gameplay is relatively simplistic to know. It's basically a Legend of Zelda clone. However, though, this game, starting off right off the back, literally is a completely different beast altogether. Now, right off the back, for those that aren't aware of, Tunic is basically a Legend of Zelda-like game where you play as a little wolf character. Or not wolf, gosh, wolf. Fox character, a little fox character. And, right off the back, literally as soon as your character gets up, you have no idea what you're doing. I literally kid you not, you have no idea what you're doing. You can go explore around, you can kind of look around and stuff like that, you can find stuff, but at the end of the day, you don't know what you're doing. It does not tell you what your goal is, does not tell you where to go, it just basically says, go off and have fun. But they're enemies. Well, if you look in that little building there, that little cave thing there, you might find a stick. What's the stick gonna do? Beat the enemies down at least? Yes. And it just kind of slowly evolves from there. Literally, you start off as nothing. You have nothing at all. There's no tutorial. There's nothing to guide you. And as you kind of explore around the first section part of the area and stuff like that, you kind of slowly start to kind of unveil a few things. For starters, you find these little pages to something, and essentially it's for an instruction booklet, but as the first couple of pages that you find relatively quickly are your tutorials. They are your tutorials. They basically tell you, okay, here's what you can do, and they are just basic. They start off as basic. And I kind of like this progression. I kind of like the progression of okay, yeah, this is cool. This is interesting. So we get these little pages that kind of tells you how to play the game. And the funny thing is that essentially all of this can be done at any point in time. Most of the abilities that you have are right off the back. But because you don't know about them, they're almost as though as if they're locked away from you, but they've been known about you for some time. So it's one of those things where it's half the abilities technically you could have done from the very get-go. You could dodge, you could lock on, you can pray at certain monuments and stuff. You could do all of this basic stuff right off the back, but you didn't know you had that potential. You didn't know you could do any of this stuff. So it's kind of interesting of how that progression was kind of building up. And as you slowly kind of find items, and as you slowly uncover more and more pages, the pages kind of act more of a guide than it needs to be. Like, they are essentially your guide. You're essentially, the more pages that you find, the more likely they're going to guide you to your destination. Like, you'll find one guide and it's like, oh, it's a map. Finally, something to help me out here. And you look at the map and you go, doesn't really tell me where I need to go, does it? But you do eventually get yourself around in certain areas. You do eventually find other parts of the maps and stuff like that that lead you off into other locations as well. And the guide, and I'm going to keep referring to that guide as you will discover, but that guide is going to be the biggest thing because it also tells you of potential bosses that you're going to possibly encounter. Sometimes they're very in-depth, sometimes they're not so in-depth, but they do eventually show you the bosses that you will eventually be fighting and stuff like that. And it's just one of those things where I didn't think the guide would be that helpful until I got towards the near end of the game. And the near end of the game, I don't want to spoil it to anyone. The near end of the game literally is the turning point. It's the turning point of where it goes from the normal gameplay aspects, the normal gaming and everything like that. You're just playing it, you're enjoying it and stuff like that. And then you get to a certain turning point where after you fight the main 3 bosses and you get the 3 keys and stuff like that, in order to progress through what you essentially think is the main goal, it reaches to a turning point where the second half of the game is literally where you discover the true nature of the guide. That guide booklet is a decipher. It's a cipher. It's a giant encryption code of like unknown potentials of where you're just like, what? Like, whenever I first uncovered some of the pages, I was still kind of lost on a lot of stuff. And so, whenever I looked at the pages, I was like, this does something. But I don't know what it does, So, essentially, I kind of go around and still continue exploring. Essentially, I find certain pages, and that's whenever I realize, wait, I've recognized that symbol somewhere. So, I go back to the symbol, and I initiate certain codes and stuff like that, which is essentially the directional buttons. And they open up to a new gateway and stuff like that leads to like different items and stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is interesting. This is cool. And then by the time I finally got around to gathering all the pieces I need in order to fight against the final boss kept kicking my butt. It kept kicking my ass. And there was like no clear cheat as to how to finally beat it. I finally did beat it though. Otherwise I wouldn't have done the review. I finally did beat it, but of course, obviously, it has more than one ending. And it has 2 endings that I've unlocked it. One, which was like, beat the final boss, but then the other ending is where you find all of the guides. And that was whenever I uncovered the true nature of this game. The true nature of this game is deciphering that guidebook. That guidebook alone is the essential piece to the entirety of the game. Because again, you start off at the beginning, you know nothing. You don't know anything. You find the guide pages and stuff like that, and you uncover truths about, oh, okay, I could do this, I can do that. That is really cool. Then you uncover map pages about the area and stuff, and then you look at the map pages and you go, okay, I'm starting to get this. I'm starting to figure this out. Okay, interesting. But then there's like an even deeper meaning. There's even deeper meanings. There's little markings on it, like pen writings and stuff like that. There's all sorts of different stuff. And as you continue reading it, you're half of the information that you're absorbing with this guidebook goes past your head. Like, it goes over your head so badly. And because of the different language and stuff like that, I couldn't make sense of half of it. Like, I saw some of the English words and stuff like that, and I was like, okay, what does any of this have to do with what's going on right now? And there's even another cryption. There's deeper cryptions that you have no idea of. There are so much details into this game that I was literally lost beyond comprehension. And so that was whenever I decided I'm gonna need a YouTube video for this. And I looked up YouTube videos about like uncovering some of the secrets and stuff like that. And there are optional stuff that you can do. There's secret trophies that you can unlock. There's fairies to find that will give you essential items, as well as essentially the last page of the guidebook. There's even more encryption stuff. And the more I looked at that, the more I looked at the guides on how to solve half of the stuff in order to get the pages and everything like that, the more I realized you have to have like the most uberous big brain to even remotely figure out half of this stuff. Like, holy crap. Like, until you get into the game and you uncover the last sections and stuff like that, you may have no idea what's going on, but then by the time you finally slowly kind of experiment on what the pages tell you to do and stuff like that, you start to go, what? Like, there is so much layered of puzzles. There are puzzles within puzzles. There are puzzles next to puzzles. There are puzzles that are connected to like 5 or 6 other puzzles in order to get to that puzzle and stuff like that. And there are puzzles that are just broken into pieces in order for you to figure out. There are some puzzles that are right in front of you that you have no idea that they actually was. And it was for that reason alone that I was like, I hate this. I hate this so much. I hate the fact that this is a thing. Holy shit, this is really crazy. It's fun to think that something like this actually exists, where there's a game where you can try to beat the main story aspects. But if you want to get the true ending, the true video game experience, you're going to need to decode everything that the game has about it. You know, find all the pages, find out what all of it means, find the connection, figure out what it all means, and figure out how to solve them and stuff. But the amount of detail that they did to make the cryption so cryptic, how would you even go as far as to solve half of them? Whenever I was looking at the guides on how to get the other pages, or much less how to find the fairies and stuff, I was like, how would you even know that that was a thing? Like, how would you even know? It's like they go into detail of like, okay, so if you look over here at this little thing where the little markings are and stuff like that, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, how would you have known that that was a puzzle key? Like, how would you have known? I wouldn't have known. And I don't know how they would have known. Because it's like, what in the world? What? Like, all insane, absolutely mind-blowing puzzles and stuff. And again, I don't want to show you too much because, again, it would spoil the experience. So, at the end of the day, I just have to tell you this right now. Tunic is probably one of the most unique games out there. It is a unique experience. And I went as far as to Platinum Tunic. I Platinum Tunic because I wanted to play this game fully and see all of it and stuff like that. Like, it's a relatively short game, but there's so many puzzles and so many different codes and stuff like that, that there's even one that's technically not even a trophy requirement that leads outside of the game. And oh my gosh, it's absolutely insane. There are so many different puzzles, and I couldn't even go into detail on half of them. All I can say is that if you're so invested with Tunic by the time you play it, look up a video on like the top secrets and stuff like that of Tunic. Your mind will be blown by the end of it, because holy shit, they've added so much detail to the game just by making all of these cryptic puzzles and stuff. The base game is fun. Absolutely loved it. But the inner workings with that guide and how to solve some of the puzzles and stuff like that, oh my gosh, unless you have YouTube in hand and stuff like that, you're going to more than likely hate the puzzles as much as I hate them. Because again, they're just so right in your face, but not clearly evidential of like how to solve it, that you're literally looking at it and you just think to yourself, you go, there's something about this, but I'm too dumb to figure it out. Like, it literally proved how dumb I was about this puzzle. And, oh my gosh, again, holy shit. It's hard to give it a high recommendation just because of that guide. But what I will say is this, is that this game is definitely fun. It's definitely fun and it's unique. The final boss is hard, so I'm just going to warn you right now, that game is hard towards the end. But for the most part, it's relatively simple to play through it, and so long as you're patient enough, and so long as you're skilled with this game, you can get through it just fine. But the puzzles in the freaking guidebook towards the end is like, holy crap, you're gonna need to like look deep into the game, like look really deep, read every little passage, and kind of figure out, okay, there's something about this that I'm not figuring out. Either I'm just that dumb, or there's something else to it. So for that, I'm going to give Tunic, I want to give it a 4 out of 5, but again, because of the guide puzzles and stuff, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to give it a 3 out of 5, I'm afraid. The game is good. I love the gameplay. I love the game. But the guide puzzles, holy crap, those guide puzzles are atrociously insane. I really had trouble trying to solve them by myself. And whenever I was looking at the guide, I was like, how would you even go about knowing that? How would you have known that that was a key or something like that, you know? It's insane. It's absolutely insane. All I gotta say is if you plan on platinum this or whatever, trying to get for the good ending and stuff, you're gonna have to look up a YouTube video because, whew, this game is hard. In order to figure that out, your brain will hurt. Well, anyway, guys, that's gonna be it for this video. I wanted to kind of talk to you guys about Tunic and give my proper review of it, because again, there's just so much detail to this game. It is insane as to how much they piled into it. But again, it's a really fun experience, and I think a lot of you will enjoy it. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. This is BlackCross signing off. Catch you guys later.